Good evening and welcome to this very special live show. So for those who are listening when this is recorded and going out on the Tuesday, this is the finale, the grand finale of Nikola Howard's series, The Relationship. And we're going to have a very special episode today, and it's actually being recorded live on YouTube and Facebook, and Nikola Howard is here too. But before I introduce her and bring her on, I just want to say how special that series has been. And I know it's been special to you as well. It's been a fantastic in terms of downloads and interaction as well with us on Facebook and email. And when I said to Nikola, could she do something to just kind of educate us and bring some interesting insight into the, whatever aspect of low carb she wanted to, this is what she suggested. And I think in many ways, it probably is the most holistic thing we've done on the show, not just looking at sometimes food from a point of view of science, which is quite often where I think a lot of podcasts go, but going way deeper in terms of our psychology, in terms of our spirituality, which is a side I haven't really considered until the way she described it to me, but also the way we relate to our environment, the people around us, our families, our loved ones. So it's a great privilege to me to say a massive thank you, and tonight a massive welcome to Nikola Howard. Welcome back to UK Low Carb, Nikola.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege and honour, and I'm sure it's going to be fun going live with you tonight.
It always is fun, Nikola, wherever we're together. You're one of those people who, whenever we do a podcast, I completely forget we're actually in two different locations and that this is a podcast. I forget that people are going to listen to this, and I kind of assume that it's just you and I chatting together. So hopefully one day soon that'll be in person and not via sort of StreamYard or Zoom.
That would be amazing.
It would be good, wouldn't it? I just want to ask something before we get started on people's questions. And just a reminder to everyone here today, if you have a question for Nikola, please do submit that, because we want to hear what you guys have got to say. Okay, so please submit your questions. I think on StreamYard, you might have to identify who you are. I'm not entirely sure, but please make sure we can see your questions and your comments and whatnot on YouTube, on Facebook. It's also shared on different platforms, and we will then ask them live on this show. But before I get into that, and we have some submitted questions as well, I just want to say, what was it that made you think of that series, The Relationship? And those who haven't heard it as yet, do you want to just tell us a bit about it for those who might be coming across this for the first time?
I think when we were talking about it, it's all about, well, what do you stand for, Nikola? And I stand for a holistic approach to our bodies, our lives, our societies, our healths. Health, is that word? It is now. And just given that you can't address just this, the body in its own self, excuse me, is only effectively a third of the problem. In fact, going about the idea of the series, it's the sixth of a problem, because you have the body, we have our physiological stuff, what our biochemistry is doing, what our hormones and enzymes, how our gut biome are affecting things. So you've got the body. But as I say, that's effectively 1/6 of the puzzle. You've then got your mind and the programming that we receive from the people I call our big people, our parents, our aunts, our uncles, our teachers, even people like on telly and the wider society, and those who influence us when we're children. We carry that stuff through to our adult lives. Mm-hmm. And until we start looking at what's going on with those patterns, we get stuck. We just get stuck as effectively in a childish mindset. And that's sort of my pet place is, well, yeah, let's challenge those past patterns and start moving forwards with life. You've then got the spirit part of us. And as you said, that you found that bit quite intriguing in terms of these past patterns and our mind. Our mind is programmed by our experiences. But I believe that we are divine beings connected to everything through all time and space, everything and everyone, if you want to take it like that. And we get to choose. We get to decide what we want to do. And despite what I call the gribbity little toe going, yeah, 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 you are fat, you are ugly, you'll never amount to anything, you're not good enough, yeah, 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 yeah. We, as that divine being, get to tell it to get in the bin and make choices. And that's the bits I really love helping people to see. You've then, of course, got the thing about we did societal next, didn't we? So going on to the concept of those big people, you've also got everybody else's big people and how we all interact, and we've all got patterns, and society in itself has patterns. You can even say countries have personalities and things. So as you go wider with everybody's food context, how we as individuals then choose to live within that society, which then took us onto ecology and the wider issues around the political attitudes towards what we're doing with climate change, where we're going to get our food, how we're going to sustain ourselves as human beings. And then finally, where did we take it back to finally?
The last place we went to was last episode, which was on Tuesday. I was listening to it today. That's really annoying. I've not got it here. Was it environment? Family,
of course, yes. So once we'd gone big out to ecology, we then took it back into our families.
Yeah.
And then how everybody has a family, but all of the families all intersect with each other, and about dealing with things such as how we set boundaries within the context of acknowledging that everybody else is running their own path. And so where we took the series, we sort of started very micro, we went right out to the macro, and then we brought it back to, well, yeah, how do we as an individual live where we are right now? And it was such a really wonderful set of conversations. I swear, however long we talked, we could have at least doubled what we said easily.
Well, that's what we're here for 6 hours tonight, everyone. So so we're going to really break this down for 6 or so hours, and then by Saturday morning we'll have a weekend. No, that's really, you know what, it's a lovely narrative. I think, in all honesty, series I've done in the past have, been a topic at a time, which equally very, very valid and worked really well. But I think this one had a sense of building up a picture, which I liked, and it was a reflection on all of us. And there's a question actually that I ask people quite often on this show, and I think I've even asked you this as well. And I tend to ask people about their family and their upbringing and what was their food like. And most people, it's not always the same, but most people from different cultures around the world, they all seem to share this sense of coming together as a family at Sundays or weekends and eating together. I don't know if that's how it is anymore, but it seems to be like quite a common thing in most cultures to come together around food, whether that's Christmas or whatever celebration they might have. And I think that makes me think there's something intrinsically human about that, about eating with other people and about our relationship with them. But also, it's also where power dynamics can lie. And actually, that's one thing I reflected on after this series, how, I've got to be careful that you don't want to be the person with your kids and people who are like, you're feeding them, but you're not controlling them. And equally, it's got to be that way the rest of your family. That's why I thought this show is, really interesting this week. I was listening to it again, thinking, I forgot about this. And actually, our relationship with our family, our parents in particular, our grandparents and other people can be very much about, are they feeding us and controlling us, or are they liberating us with our choices? And that really made me think. So, a lot to think on there. Thank you for that.
Well, there's I feel that in most major religions, there's a meal of some description. Of course, the biblical one, the New Testament one, leaps immediately to mind, the Last Supper. But if you look through the mythos, the same stories appear in most major and even some of the minor religions. There are 27 different Messiah stories scattered around the world religions. The fact that the sun dies and rises again in three days can be taken as the sun of God, or it can be taken as the literal glowing ball of fire in the sky. If you think about what happens at Yule, the sun dies for 3 days and it's all gloom, and then it rises again on the third day.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole batch of stuff. So when you're talking about coming together and sharing food, it's one of the most primal things that we do as humans. If you look at not just us as societies, but bonobos and chimpanzees, and that they all, those sort of primate mammals, all share food, and it's all part of their power dynamic. So
Wow.
it's instinctual for us to use food almost as currency and as power.
Yeah, yeah. I think exactly that. Yeah. Currency, yeah, and power. I think that's so true. So, okay, then we're just going to get into some questions that have been sent. But just to let everyone know that if you do have a question for Nicola this evening, she's actually here to address those questions, to answer them. So just comment below the post. And actually on our screen here, it's very clever. It pops up and we can actually show it on the screen. Okay. I just want to show this though from Sarah Jane. I've had 1-to-1 coaching with Nikola, and they have changed my life. Well, that's very powerful, isn't it? There's no greater compliment to pay somebody than saying you've changed their life. I mean, well, depends if you changed it in a good way. There's a smiley face, so
I
that must
believe
be
I did.
positive. Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
I
I
did.
know you have. So that's fantastic. Thank you. And then, unfortunately, I don't know the name of this next person, but it says watching on the big TV. So there you go. Stretch out, everyone, and I'm on your screen. So love that. Right. Okay. So I've had some questions sent in, and like I say, those people who want to ask questions now, please just write them under the comment on Facebook, and they will appear. And I believe on the YouTube as well.
Yeah.
But I've had some questions sent in. But the first one's actually one of my questions I had for you. So on this show, I quite often hear people talking about, cut carbs and sugar, as you'd expect on UK low carb. I also hear a lot about people saying about cut back on seed oils and things that cause inflammation for your body. Which one of those two categories, so you've got carbs and sugar on one side, you've got inflammation causing food on the other, which should we be more concerned about? If you had to cut out one more than the other, and I know you could easily say both, but I'm not going to let you answer that way. I want you to literally tell me, what's the bigger concern? So if I'm doing low carb, can I have inflammation? If I'm doing inflammation, can I get rid of the carb? Like which way around?
So given that inflammation causing foods or in fact, sugar and carbs are a subset of inflammation causing foods, it's inflammation causing foods is the more prioritous. Sugar, wheat, seed oils. I think I said to you way back when, if we as a society dished out those three things, we'd all be healthier because we'd all have less default inflammation. And inflammation is the body's healing response. It's a natural thing. It's a good thing, but not chronically. We are not supposed to be inflamed all the time. I can never remember what the 6 stages of healing are, but the first stage is like when you cut yourself, you get inflammation, and then you get another 5 things, including micturition for some bizarre reason. I remember the name. And you get those 5 things whilst, if you watch, literally, I've got cat scratches from where I've done things with my mum's cats and watched, like, that was like a hole in August, and I've watched it sort of scab up and scar tissue, and it's doing that. And part of that was it became red and raised and inflamed. That's part of natural healing. But where we putting, so effectively the logic is you putting in this stuff that causes inflammation. The body's trying to heal. Why do we keep damaging it with stuff that we put into ourselves and then are demanding this wonderful, amazing, gorgeous, awesome body that we've been given? Why are we making such demands on it to heal it all the time? So yeah, my although if I have to choose, it's inflammation causing foods, because that also covers sugar and carbs anyway.
Yeah, I love that. So is that the same for everyone? And I know I'm kind of, going down an avenue here. You might say, where's he going with this? But you know how some people are way more sensitive to carbohydrate? I'd include myself in that. Sugar and carbs hit me very fast. And as I get older, I notice that even more so. Other people, it seems, don't have the signs of a problem with it. I'm not saying there's signs that, they have problems that we can't see, of course. So, I'm just acknowledging that as well. But do you think some people have more of a chance of getting inflammation from sugar and carbs than others? Or is it equally as bad on everyone, do you think? It's just that you see it in different symptoms?
Everybody is different, and yet we are all Homo sapien. So everybody will react to the same thing in the same way. But we are all individual. So like some people are allergic to peanuts, some people are allergic to lactose, some people are allergic to da 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 da. So we have an individualized reaction to things. Right. So like my body has polycystic ovaries. That means I have to keep my carbohydrate pretty much zero to stand any chance of ditching off my body fat. And at the moment, I'm not. I'm probably eating about 20 or 30 a day because I'm enjoying vegetables. Big whoop. But for some people, you think about Michaela Peterson, Amber O'Hearn, they literally cannot eat anything but meat because otherwise they feel like crap turned over. So you have a chronic reaction, which is what we are treating medically, which we don't acknowledge as a problem.
Yeah.
And you have what's called acute reactions, like you're going to die if you eat peanuts, swell up, you're dead.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that as a society we worry about, because unfortunately this wonderful amazing mind we've got is very short term. So if something is going to kill you now, we worry about it. If something is going to kill you over 30 years, la 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 la, and we sort of generally ignore the problem until it becomes a problem. And I think I might have said to you again way back, but I say it quite often, is I feel vaguely sorry for the people that are TOFI, the thin people that suddenly get type 2 diabetes, because the body that gets fat, it's desperately trying to protect us from all the rubbish that we put into it. It's putting, oh my God, here's all this glucose. What am I going to do with it? Shove it into storage. That's going to protect me and it's going to keep me going as long as possible. Whereas the people that are just eating what they like and normally admonishing people that get fatter from eating carbohydrate, oh, you should just eat less, because their bodies.
I've met those people too, Nikola.
Yeah. What Dr. Richard Marcanus back in 1968 called Mr. Burns everything, because of course he was the languages of its day, and of course we are the fat and easily body types, and so Burns everything literally does that. Their metabolism is balanced, they can cope with it, but unfortunately they then end up going straight to type 2 diabetes, chronic heart disease, high blood pressure, because insulinemia or hyperinsulinemia, which is of course something we don't measure at all because we treat symptoms, not causes. And normally you get hyperinsulinemia around 10 years before these sorts of things kick off. No one's looking for it 10 years before you get sick. So yeah, it's that whole.
On that point, sorry, with regards to, you said, people look for the not the causes, but they look for what do you call it again? Sorry, the symptoms, not the cause.
Symptoms, not the cure, not the causes.
I would absolutely love. I think you're right there. I'd absolutely love to know what my insulin levels were. Now I know that you could probably say, well, you can look at, for instance, your blood sugar level, which will give you some idea, but not really, because the insulin is keeping it down, right? So you could have a good blood sugar level because your insulin is through the roof. And I guess you could say, well, you could probably then tell from your body shape, or there's different symptoms that are going to be happening if you've got lots and lots of insulin in your body. But I would absolutely love to have an insulin test. So you could say, did you know you're really high in this one hormone, which is trying to keep you, like working effectively. And that in sort of 10 to 8 years or whatever from now, that could well easily not be the case. Your body would just be completely exhausted by that. And type 2 diabetes kicks in. I mean, how powerful would that be?
Well, I mean, those tests do exist. You can get that tested for, but it's not something we do routinely.
Is it because of expense or because of paradigm?
Not at all. I don't know about the money. I don't think it's that expensive, but it's definitely more expensive than glucose testing, I believe.
Yeah, which I suppose is ubiquitous, and so that makes it cheaper anyway, doesn't it? Yeah.
But I would definitely say it's some of it is to do with paradigm. I read a little article where someone went to the doctor because they had an issue, and the doctor was basically talking about giving the medication and whatever and la la la. And the same person took their dog to the vet the next day because their dog was a bit fat and wasn't feeling great and had arthritic hips. And the first question the vet asked the owner was, well, what are you feeding them?
Yeah, reasonable.
Whereas we don't ask that question at all.
Yeah, and that's exactly what David Unwin said, and I think that's exactly it. You sort of say, well, if you ask about an animal what you're feeding them as the most obvious question, then there must be something that we're feeding ourselves that's equally as bad. But I don't think people realize what the human diet is. That's the weird thing. So I don't think he's watching, but even if he is, I'm going to say this in my podcast anyway. So Dr. Giles Yeo and I had a conversation this week, and it was really fascinating because there's a lot of things he says that I really agree with. And, when he says about there are genetic predispositions we have, some people, to eat more than others. And there's certain drives that people have that other people don't have genetically. And they're looking into that. And I think, yeah, we're all individual. We all have different, I honestly believe that as individuals, we are very different in many ways. We might be one species, but we're incredibly unique as individuals. However, his whole paradigm is based on, so that means some people eat more calories than others. And I was like, whoa, hang on, what about biology? And he said, it's physics, it's calories in, calories out. I said, okay, the gene bit, I get that. Well, I didn't say it because it's awkward. It's in his house. It's the first live face-to-face interview I've done. So it's a bit awkward to say, I think you're wrong. But I was trying to question him. I said at one point, we come at it from different paradigms, and that is hard to sometimes get across. And I thought he's seeing it so from one paradigm without realizing that actually there's another. So for him, there's no such thing as a human diet. He effectively believes we can eat anything as long as it's within a certain calorie. Now, the thing that's interesting about that, and it relates to a question that's coming up, which somebody's left for us there. He said that the research showed in the 19th century that, I think it was fat, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that fat is 9 calories. I don't know if that's per gram. I think it might be. It's 9 calories. I think carbohydrate is 4 calories per gram, and alcohol is 7 calories. So I was thinking, well, in that case, you could fuel your body, if you believe in calories only, you could fuel your body completely on carbohydrate for the day to 2,000, let's say, calories, or you could fuel your body completely on fat to 2,000 calories, there'd be less of it, or you could fuel your body for the whole day on alcohol for 7 calories. Because if a calorie is a calorie, it doesn't matter what the substance is that the calorie comes in, because that's literally energy. But of course, we know that's not true. If you had alcohol, you're not going to be working or driving or anything like that, are you? So I just thought, well, how interesting that they think that people think that still.
It flabbergasts me that this utterly elegant theory, calories, is utterly, as I say, it's really simplistic. It's utterly elegant and totally wrong.
Yeah,
it's not about a calorie. Is how much it takes when you burn something in a bomb calorimeter to heat 1 cubic centimeter of water by 1 degree centigrade. That is the calorie. And that doesn't apply to hormones and enzymes. And there's a really good video on YouTube that actually this week in the coaching call for Low Carb Living UK, we were talking about why a calorie isn't a calorie to the body. And there's a really good video that the late, great Dr. Barry Groves has on his YouTube channel. Of course, there are no new ones on there because he died, I think, 2003, of a genetic disorder that also took his brother in the same week. It was completely not to do with anything. Yeah, it was not a great time for the Groves family.
That's horrible, yeah.
And he was talking about what you've just said, that a calorie is a fat is 9 and carbs and protein is 4 and alcohol is 7, and how that was all measured. But of course, they rounded up a bit because it's not exactly that. And some food has more caloric value when you burn it than other substances that are of the same thing. Saturated fats are only like 5 calories a gram, whereas polyunsaturated is nearer to 9. So they rounded up and did weird rubbish and gave us this, as I say, very elegant, simplistic theory that just doesn't apply to biochemistry. It's physics. You cannot apply physics to chemistry. It doesn't work.
But don't you think in a way it's such a simple theory and that's why it survives? Because anyone from any profession can go, I get that. Yeah, you put it in, you get it out. That's the end of it. I put petrol in my car, it runs. Now your car isn't normally a hybrid with, like a tiny battery and a massive petrol tank. Glycogen and fat. Like you could actually make that analogy, but people seem to stop there and just think, no, it's just energy in, energy out. That's the end of it. Eat less, move more. You'll lose weight.
But as Gary Taubes said, no, it wasn't Taubes, it was Eads. It was in Gary Taubes' book.
Oh, yeah, Georgia Eade.
That doesn't take account of the second law of thermodynamics, which is all systems fall towards entropy, chaos. This is what's called an open system. It adjusts itself based on what's coming in and what's going out. A car is a closed system. A steam train is a closed system. If we had
a kettle, anything,
perfect energy conservation, we would have the perpetual motion machine. It doesn't exist. All systems fall towards entropy. Calories in does not equal calories out.
And
because of
equally, your
this.
body will survive. And if you cut your calories so drastically, I think most people would realize that's what actually most diets are based on, that they try to flog you on the market. And you will then put the weight back on plus some when your body can eat, because it goes, here we go. We've been starving ourselves, survival. This person's going to die if we don't feed ourselves. So let's go for it. Yeah, thank you. I thought I just wanted to talk to you about that, because I was there thinking when he's talking to me, I was like, can I just tell you something else he said? And I'm sorry, I will come to Bill's questions in a minute, but I knew I needed to do this. The other thing he said, which really made me shocked, actually, I just said, is there proof that saturated fat is bad for us? Because, just put it out there. He said, yes, there's epidemiology that's shown. I thought, oh, okay. And he didn't have the evidence. Now, if you're listening, Dr. Giles Yo, I'd love to hear what the evidence is. Please tell me if I'm wrong. And I said, however, isn't it interesting that we evolved alongside saturated fat? There might have been less of it available, but it certainly evolved alongside it. We didn't evolve along polyunsaturated fat. So how come one is good for us we've never had until it was made as an engine oil, and canola, was it like it stands for Canada low acid, was the oil they used in submarines or something. Well, that's fine for us apparently as a modern 100-year-old oil, but the one that we've been eating for millennia suddenly is really bad for us. And he said, well, no, we've had olive oil. I said that's monounsaturated. And I thought, and also coming from Norfolk in the Ice Age, I don't think my ancestors had the ability to get olive oil. So it's just an interesting conundrum. That how do they answer it?
Well, there's also really good evidence that they didn't consume a lot of olive oil. It was mostly used for soap.
I told him that, and actually said, because that's what Nina Teicholz says, doesn't she, in her book Big Fat Surprise? And I said they actually used tallow and animal fats to cook with, because of course olive oil, as we know, burns very easily when you cook with it. It's not an ideal fat.
Oil.
Yeah. So
lamp oil, soap, beauty products. It's very, very rich and luxurious for the skin. They only ate it if they needed to. They didn't cook wholesale with it at all.
Actually, because I taught history, and there's a source I found from a Roman bath once, and it described how the only mention of olive oil I've come across for the Romans now was that they used to use it in the baths for massage and everything, and the water would have like a slick of olive oil on the top, which isn't very clean, obviously, when you got into it. That's the only reference I've seen. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. The lamps, like you say, but in written source form, I mean, that's the only source I've seen written about the fact that they're using it. I've never seen it being used in cooking.
It was used to massage, and it was also striduled. So they used it as the cleaning product.
The knife thing.
So as you got out, they then scraped the stuff off of you with the stridule thing, and the oil helped that to not basically take your skin off, and also left your skin feeling amazing.
Can I tell you a story quickly before I go to the?
You're gonna have to come on. We've been chatting for like 25 minutes already,
but I'm hogging you now. But okay, so. I was 17, and I was studying classics at A-level, and I thought I'm going to try striduling myself, if that's I think that's what you call it, and I thought, okay, I'll do it on my arm. So the only thing I had was that's not true. I could have used a butter knife, now thinking about it, but I had a Swiss Army knife, and so next thing you know, I'm shaving my left arm of all its hair, and I'm like, what? That didn't happen in my lesson. Oh no! And then I cut myself, and I was like, oh. Idiot. So anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you all that. So that's my confession there. Like I said, I forget we're recording this and it's actually a live show. So let's get into some people watching today's questions, and I've also got some that sent in to me. Can I just say, Nikola, you know this better than I do. On StreamYard, some people have entered a question, but I don't know their name. So I think there's a way they can submit their name, isn't there?
If they type it in, because basically it comes from Facebook user, it means they're in your group. They're not watching it on your page.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to put this question up. It's one about alcohol. So if that is you, can you please comment again with just your name, and then I can see who you are and I'll acknowledge your question, okay? So this one's just come in here. It says, what do you think of alcohol? I've recently, in June, stopped drinking it. I feel so much better. It was the only thing holding me back. At 57 years, I couldn't deal with the hangovers any longer. Isn't alcohol just sugar in disguise? Well, I can relate to the hangover problem. What do you think to that, Nikola?
The answer to the end statement is yes and no. It is processed by the liver, and by the liver only. And the Dr. Lustig's done this one to death. In fact, Sugar the Bitter Truth. I watch that lecture every year. Every year I get a little new nugget from it. We process both alcohol and fructose via the JNK pathway in the liver. That's the only place the body can deal with it. It is a chronic toxin, and the body has to use it. So where you were saying about, well, alcohol has 7 calories, if you only drank alcohol, you die of thiamine deficiencies and various other bits and pieces. It's alcoholic liver cirrhosis and all that malarkey is not fun. But now, because we're increasing our fruit products, our fruit juices, our fruit without fiber, we're seeing the same damage being done to the liver as if people are drinking alcohol. Kids are now getting non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It shouldn't happen. So yes, in terms of isn't alcohol just sugar in disguise? I don't know if it's in disguise, but it's definitely two sides of the same coin. And I want to congratulate you so much for actually taking that choice to not drink. I know I only drink at weekends. I have a couple of glasses of wine with my boyfriend. We drink very good quality wine because he's unfortunately got me out of the habit of drinking whatever. And
unfortunately,
yeah.
Sound of regret and grief in your voice.
I now have expensive tastes rather than going and buying a bottle of seven quid wine. We now drink about 20 quid bottles of wine, and we really enjoy that once a week, maybe twice a month, depending on when we hook up with each other. But making the choice to assist your liver to allow you to then get more healthy, because of course I can go off on a big thing about the liver is amazing. I believe it's the third most important organ in the body. Heart, number 1, lungs, number 2, maybe even they're tied first place. Liver is the next one, because the liver does 400 odd jobs in the body, not just digesting food. It does purification, it does enzyme production, it makes fat, it makes glucose, it makes glycogen, it does a whole bunch of amazing, wonderful stuff for which you need magnesium, another topic as well. And if you are not poisoning it, well done. It's awesome choices to make. And the fact that you've been able to do that, all play to you. And yeah, it's really going to assist your health going forwards.
Excellent. That's Kathy Watson. Hey, Kathy. I know you're on the group, really active there. So thank you so much for your question. And also I was going to say, and I think that's exactly what you're saying about the quality of the drink you're drinking. So, alcohol itself, if you're just drinking vodka, I guess that has a very different effect. When you're drinking beer, of course, it's like bread in a glass or, cocktails. I actually tried a little bit of a cocktail the other day, and it was like, that's a gorgeous drink because it's just sugar and fruit juice. And of course, this is a good drink. It's got all those things that my brain has evolved to want to have.
Absolutely. But so, then that's like saying filtered cigarettes are safer for you than unfiltered cigarettes. It's all the same stuff. And a bottle of wine is 10 units. And yes, a bottle of vodka is about 30. But if you're like some people who choose to drink a bottle of wine every night, then they're getting 140 units a week. And given for a female body, the recommendation is 14, that's going to take a toll over time. And it's not, for people to have 2 to 3 glasses a night, that's not uncommon in our, and again, we could do a whole nother podcast on that sort of stuff that's going on in society. So I should probably get off my soapbox right now on that one.
No, this is a soapbox central, so enjoy that. I just can't see you so high up. Okay, right. So I've got some more questions just come in there, but I've got some submitted before. So let's just go through this one. This one here, I've got a name, unfortunately. I'm so sorry if this is you. It says, how do you keep this way of life up? I've tried a few times now, and after a few months, I've had success. However, stress and boredom sneak up, and I'm back on the carbs.
The very trite answer is you come and work with me and we get that stuff handled, because it's all about what's in here. Changing our plate is the easy part. Any diet system would work if we could stick to it and just be in it. But because of what's going on in here, because we've linked food and emotions, which is natural, it's as we talked about, it's a very human primal thing. We eat to reward ourselves, we eat to commiserate ourselves, we eat to celebrate, we eat to bond, we do all these things that are involving food.
And so sometimes we're hungry.
And so and sometimes like hungry is probably
not so often.
It's not the number one reason for eating food, or eating even food like substances. That's stuff that I call that the food like substances that amuse our tongue rather than the food that nourishes our bodies. And so doing the work to change your mindset, and in my systems, I take people through the 10 keys to unlock your mind and the 3 secrets that guarantee your successful life. And everyone that uses the system, about 2/3 of the way through, they suddenly start saying, I don't want to do that stuff anymore. And I've heard it again and again. And where Sarah, she says she's worked 1-to-1 with me. She'll probably sing my praises if she's still on the stream. And it's that whole, just once you do the work between your ears, the whole world just changes, and you suddenly get this perspective of, I don't understand how I could even have made that choice before.
Yeah.
And people then say, no, you're just talking rubbish. It can't be that quick. It crossed my heart and hope to work hard for a living. I can affect change within somebody within 6 weeks.
That's interesting. So the 21-day thing that Seema Hodge talks about, do you think it takes longer than that to really get on a different track?
Okay, so there was a study done at the University College of London, UCL, that proved on average it takes 66 days to form a new habit.
Okay.
So where
I've never got into smoking. I never really went for it.
Yeah. Well, where I made my system, I made my system last 39 days. So it takes you halfway through forming a new habit. And then I have various bits and pieces that then support people up to getting 66 days under their belts. And it really is, you hit about day 40 and you're just about there. And the amount, as I say, the amount of people I've seen do it with me, either in my groups, 1-to-1, people that have read my book and come back to my free Facebook group and say, I've read your book, I'm here. And all the people that come back with that message of, oh yeah, I've fallen off the wagon again, I can't stick to it, because they haven't done the work.
Right.
Because it's painful. It hurts looking at this stuff.
Yeah.
And humans, we don't want to look at our pain. But the only way to change your life is to look at that pain, acknowledge it, and move on from it.
Wow, that's powerful. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we have some comments just to share. This is from Pam, new listener here. Fascinating. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. It's lovely to see you here as well. Genuinely, this show is between Nikola, myself, and all of you. You're part of the show as much as we are. So thank you for being here. Jenny says Nikola is saying truth. So I completely agree there. Do you know Jenny or Pam at all?
I don't know Pam, but Jenny is one of my clients.
Fantastic. So welcome, Jenny. Thank you so much for watching today. It's lovely to have you here joining us. And I have another question here. Now, this is a two-parter. So let's just go through the first part and then we'll go into the second, okay? So this is what Pam has said. I started low carb to reduce chronic inflammation and have improved my health significantly. I used to be allergic to eggs, but don't seem to be now, and eat 2 to 3 a day. Then she says, is it fair to assume that if I don't have any symptoms, then they're not causing me any problems? Hope that makes sense.
Makes total sense. And while I will say now, I am not medically qualified. I've just read a lot and done a lot of logic and put things together. What the logic of this would be, I've just seen your comment, Pam. I'm also PhD. That's fantastic.
Woo, Pam is in the public health collaboration.
The logic of that is, I would suggest that what you were eating with the eggs causing the issue. There are things within the egg white generally. Most people, if they are egg sensitive, they can eat egg yolk, but not egg white. So because there's also, weirdly enough, there's substances in the albumin that counteract the biotin that's in the egg yolk if you don't cook it. If you eat a raw egg, you must never eat a snotty raw egg. You must always make sure your white is cooked properly so that the stuff that's in the yolk is fully effective. There are definitely
hang on. So say that again. That's interesting. So what's the relationship between the white and the yolk that stops it from being safe or makes it safe? I
can't remember the name of the substance, but there's a substance in the white, in the albumin part of the egg white.
Yeah.
That when it contacts the egg yolk, there's one of the B complexes, which is called biotin, which is about skin and hair and nails. It deactivates the biotin, so it becomes non-bioavailable to our gut, so we can't absorb it.
Wow.
So when you have a snotty egg, which to me is like, no, anyway, that's just no. But if people like snotty eggs, then they're deactivating the biotin that's in the egg yolk.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm full of these lovely little nuggets.
You
But
are.
no, the suggestion, because it's also about oh God, what's the thing that's your IgH markers, IgAs? The thing that causes allergic reactions. There are, I believe, 3 types of molecules in the body. I would posit that basically Pam was having an interaction of more than one substance, and now she's taken away the things that potentially cause the issue, like eggs on toast. Just to pick on
Yeah.
the eternal thing of gluten, as I like picking on gluten because it's a horrible substance. By eating eggs on toast, you may well be acting to the toast, not the eggs. So where you take away things that are causing you to be chronically allergic to something, that low level intolerance stuff, it can, once you start to improve that, you also just generally calm down your body's overreaction. Again, talking about if you're putting stuff in that's causing low level allergic intolerant inflammatory responses, your body's on standby all the time.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, I would say if you don't have symptoms, they're not causing problems, but it's one of those things to monitor. Everybody is different. If you suddenly find that you are, then don't eat them. As simple as that. If we eat the things that make us fat and sick, we get fat and sick. So the principle also is, we eat things that we are chronically allergic to, we're going to have a chronically allergic reaction to it. So
I think, yeah, I totally agree. And I think as well, Pam, and this goes for any one of us actually, you work out what works for you, don't you? So maybe you restrict a lot and then introduce things gradually, or maybe the other way around. It's completely up to you how you do it. You just cut back on one thing and see how you get on. But I think the key thing for anybody doing keto, low carb, sugar free, whatever, is just to work out, how do you function and work? I've heard this on my fasting group, the Wolf Pack. People will say, oh, actually, I realize I can't do that sort of fast. And yet they hear other people talking about it as if it's the easiest thing in the world. I'm like, well, that's you and that's them. You just find out what works for you. There's no one size fits all. And it shouldn't be that way with regards to government policy and also individual choices, because it is how you respond to things. Absolutely. Also, I find as well, as I get older, that I become more sensitive to certain things than I was before. And that's interesting, which makes it, I don't know if this is true, but I kind of think that my body has been doing such a good job of keeping a lid on things. And as time goes on, a bit like the insulin thing we said earlier, it can't do it like it used to. And it's like, can we just stop now? Like, why are you eating gluten or whatever it might be?
Absolutely. Well, one of the reasons why I constructed my systems the way I constructed them, they are not a plan, they're a framework. I call it the OSN scale, which stands for optimal, suboptimal, non-optimal. And you make your choices based on what your body likes from within the scale. And I can't tell people, I hate the concept of, we give people a 2-week meal plan. You're teaching them by rote. You're not teaching them to actually think for themselves. So the fact I give people this framework and say, work it out. Ask questions, ask questions, keep the dialogue going. But this is your system. Use the framework and find what you like to eat and what your body likes and what it doesn't like. So for me, I find I run very, very well carnivore. As I say, I've put vegetables back in. I'm not feeling quite as bright. I know at some point I've got to take them out again. I'm just not ready to do it yet. I can't do, or I've tried, the longest fast I've ever done is 36 hours. And that was, I cheated because I had 3 swallows of coconut oil during that period. I've never done more than 24 hours with nothing but water passing my lips. And I think I've only ever done that twice. I do not want, I get my brain after about sort of 16, 18, literally my brain is closing down and it's like, yeah, it's time to eat. It really is. So it's one of the things that actually, I love your group, but I don't like that dynamic because it can get very competitive. As you say, other people looking at other people and going, well, why can't I do that? But the answer is, well, your body's different to their body.
Well, we do
Do
make that
what
very
your body can
clear.
do.
I know what you mean. We always say, by the way, it's a fasting window. It's not a fast
Mm,
of 5 days. So I tell people, you come and do 16 hours, come and do 24 hours, do 70 odd hours, whatever you want to do is up to you.
mm,
And it's supportive. So it shouldn't be a competition. However, you're right. It's only natural to go, well, they're doing that. Why can't I? And,
yeah,
and I would say all the time, you are completely autonomous and over in charge of your own body and your health and your journey. I mean, for instance, I went through a very stressful time. I was telling Nicola before this, and I've been to hospital a few times with a family member who was really sick, and so I was stressed to hell that week, and I just said, no, I can't do it for a number of reasons, but that's not number one. My stress levels are high, so why would I
yeah.
do it to myself? So I think you have to be, responsible and know how you work, and that's really important. Just got a message here from Claire. I think we've been busted to talk about alcohol so much there. Apologies that this is alcohol only related chat. Just ignore me if it is. No, it's not at all. It's anything. It's ask me anything. So,
Yes.
anything you've got to ask is brilliant. And this is a really good one from Claire. She says, I'm new but loving this way of eating. I'm using low carb to lose weight. How should I transition to maintenance once I've achieved my target weight? I think that should be slightly up carbs ? Now that is a brilliant question, and I asked Tom Watson actually on the podcast that came out today, because I think we all like a transformation story. We all love I started here and then 10 minutes later I was here and it's amazing. And then I think, and then the day after you've got to your
Mm,
target, whatever it is, how do you then live this without it becoming, because there's certainly a short-termism we all have of
mhm.
thinking, I can do anything for a month. I can do anything for 3
Yeah.
months. Now I've got into the habit of doing, I can do it for a year. And now I've achieved what I want to achieve. Now what? Does it all
Yeah.
go to pot? What do you do? So that's the question
It's
from Claire.
why I'm giggling, because one of my missions in the world is to remove the words weight loss from society, because they are utterly useless. Because this body is not this whole body is weight, and you don't want to get rid of anything in it but our fat, and we
Mm.
don't want to lose it because it's not stuck down the back of the sofa, and I'm not going to go and find it again.
I hope not.
No, but it's that
That'd be
whole, we
shocking.
set up these words, set ourselves up for failure. That lost, we lose our keys, we lose money, we lose people. That I don't know anyone who thinks loss is a happy thing unless we apply it to this weird nebulous concept of weight. I've called myself a loser back in the 2000s when I started. I'm a loser. Oh my God, horrific messages to go back and send in here. So, but I'm giggling at the how should I transition to maintenance? You just keep going. You listen to your body. Your body will tell you what it wants. Once you actually trust it and you allow it, again, we stop using our minds to try and control it, which is where the current paradigm is. We're told we've got a TDE, measure this, do that, faff around with all this stuff. By using my systems and just letting the body say, yeah, this is what I want to eat. Lots of people get to around where their body wants to be, which is, if we're looking at the scale, is normally going to be around 7 pounds heavier than what your ideal weight should be, because of course muscle is more dense than fat, so you take up less space. There is a fantastic picture of a lady that lost 1 pound and she looks like she's lost 3 stone because she's put muscle on and her body's got smaller. It's all about this body composition. It's not at all to do with what the sad step says. Your relationship to gravity is meaningless. It's just how much the earth is sucking on you on any one day. Rant, soapbox gal. So what you do is you listen to your body, and your body normally will suddenly think, oh, I need some more fat. That is the most common story. People will find as they are sort of going on the pathway, they want to eat more protein because their body's rebuilding their muscles. And then they suddenly wake up one day and go, oh, I need some more fat. Because, of course, if you've got rid of it all, you've got none in you anymore. So your body can't pull on it. So it wants you to then eat it. Carbohydrate. Some people say carbohydrate is the lever. Given that there is no biological need to eat it at all, why would you want to up something you don't actually need and gets in the way of the tasty food? It is always your choice to eat vegetables. It is always your choice to do whatever you want to do. That is one of the freedoms of the way that OSN scale works. It's always your choice. If you want to go and eat cake, you go and eat cake. But what you do is you own that choice. You get rid of all this crappy guilt and shame that we've been given around, oh, naughty but nice. You get rid of all of it. You just say, right, I'm going to choose to eat this non-optimal thing, and I'm just going to carry on with my day afterwards. There is no wagon. There is simply life and choices. And that's how you do maintenance. You live life and you make choices, and you listen to what this body needs. Because if you put back in the things that made you fat and sick, you're going to get fat and sick again. And that's the simple answer. So you don't transition to maintenance. You just carry on living life.
Yep, like that.
And listening to what this is doing.
I think just from a practical point of view, something that Tom Watson said today, which I really liked on the show, he said he feels like he now also has a bit of a sense of, okay, if things have gone a direction, where, I guess what you're saying is you make the choice at the time you're eating the thing or whatever it might be. But what if you've got into, a bit of a habit and you think, oh, hang on a minute, that's changed a little bit. That's interesting. He said now he feels like he's got a framework to fall back on again of thinking, okay, I'm just going to give that up for a little while and I'm just going to do this and the other. And, like, for instance, you made a good point there about vegetables for some people. And I think I'm a bit like this as well. It's nice to put them to one side and go, you know what, I just want to have a bit of a carnivore time for me because I know that works really well for my body and I respond very quickly to it and I feel better and it's just a more optimal choice for me. And I think when you know that about yourself, and it sounds like, Claire, you're new to this way of eating, but you're going to get more and more used to what works well for you. I mean, one of the things I notice is when I start getting heartburn, I'm like, hang on a minute, that wasn't there before. What's happening? Oh yeah, that slipped in. Let's get rid of that again. I don't want the heartburn. And you start listening to your body's response, and I think that will become natural.
It takes about 2.5, 3 months to start trusting this, where we come with all those old crappy messages from the current paradigm about your body must be denied and disciplined and ignored. We are taught you must ignore your hunger by the current paradigm. Once you actually open your internal ears, and there is no other metaphor but listening. Once you open your internal ears, your body will tell you what it wants. As I say, that normally takes about 2.5, 3 months. So the fact that you're new, don't sweat it. Just let it happen. I admit I've been doing this 22 years now. So I come from a place of I'm way down the road. For me, I can look at white beige things and they're just not food. And I just don't even when I am at my lowest and I'm wanting to have some of my food addiction behaviors are kicking in, it's not, a pint of ice cream is not an option. I'll go and do food addiction behaviors with nourishing healthy steak and broccoli and cream. And at the moment I acknowledge I am eating too much cream for this wonderful, amazing body of mine because I'm fighting my food triggers at the moment with what's going on in my life. But I'm not choosing non-optimal stuff because for me, it's just not an option. It's not worth it. That is the product of a lot of work on what's going on in here. Yeah. But it's perfectly doable.
Yeah. And also, you've got a real empathy for not just yourself, but also for people generally. But you do now, because I think,
Claire, do not feel silly. I'm just going to say it right there. Do not feel silly.
Yeah, let's put this up. This is a new comment, by the way. So Claire said, and just for those who are listening instead, she said, feel silly now. You're not at all. You're so right. My plan is to remove carbs and keep them off my menu. I'll add fats as I feel I need them. Scared of trusting myself because I've been made bad decisions before, but I listen to my body. Thank you so much, both.
It's so common. We are taught to distrust it. But it's all about learning to get into. That's why we've called this the relationship, because there's a relationship you need to reconnect with. This is the only thing. This will be with you forever. It's the only relationship that will last. People come and go. This is where the relationship is, and learning to reintegrate that. I've got a lovely graphic in my book where you have mind and you have body, and there's a communication gap between the two. And then it's surrounded by spirit, which is the thing that allows you to get in touch with both of them. And we don't listen to it at all. Western paradigm is divinity and spirituality. Get in the bin. It's nothing to do with what we are. And it's really not. That's that her connection
Haven't
to.
you heard of calories in, calories out,
Oh
Nicola?
yes, the rational method and the scientific method. It served us fantastically through the 18th and 19th century. But there's this bit, but the Eastern philosophies are now gaining ground because they're right. They provide a better model for how we live as holistic human beings. So do not be scared to trust yourself. The point of that is you're gonna muck up. You're human. Learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And just give yourself love.
Something you said, Claire, I thought was really interesting there. You talked about the future of what will you do when you get to a certain point. And something that I've really learned is actually I'm only ever really in the moment I'm in now.
Yeah.
And the day that I'm in today is my reality. And that's all I can deal with, actually, because, you know, I've done this like everyone, and I'm not saying I don't do it now so much, but sometimes you're so living in the future, or some people are so living in the past, they are kind of, they don't really think about what's going on right now. And I think if you're just empowered and in your choices today, and that's all it is. And I think the future will sort itself out. You know, like if I'm doing this today, my today will be in the future, and I'll just live it as it happens rather than planning for it. Because there is certain things that can happen whereby you can think, well, I'm going to give myself an opportunity to like have, as some people call it, a cheat day or whatever. And I think just live for now, though. Just enjoy the food you've got and enjoy the body. You know, I think that's much healthier than either living the future or living the past. You know,
oh, definitely. We just have a never-ending series of now. That's all we have. It's that whole. It's called the present for a reason. It's a gift.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Live in it. Don't look at some weird future when I am this, I will do that. Do it now. Wear the lovely clothes. Get out the good china.
Life's actually happening right this second, isn't it?
Enjoy it. Grab it. Buy the testicular material and live your life now.
There you go. Okay, good. It's Friday night. Relax, everyone. Okay. A question we were sent in previously, which I think this is a lovely one. How can we share this way of eating with those that we love to help them? Now, I know kind of the context of that a little bit. And, you know, we have people in our lives who sometimes, you know, they're not well. They might have different symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And when you know this for you, it becomes the case that you think, well, if you just did this, that might help you. But you also know by having that conversation, some people roll their eyes. I mean, some people are more open to it, but other people aren't. So, you know, how do you have that conversation with somebody you love?
This is covered in key 10 in my system. And they're not going to like the answer. There's bugger all you can do about it. Because if they are not willing to make a change, you cannot make them make the change. If they are going la, 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 la in their head and they are following whatever they've been told to do, and they believe they are doing the right thing, belief is far too strong. It is one of the reasons we have such a problem in the world right now, because of belief. People believe a certain set of stuff that is so far away from objective truth that, and basically, if you challenge somebody's belief, they will then double down into it. So your family member may well be sick and hurting, but all you can do is love them. And that's the only thing you can do. And be a beacon to be you. And if that is then you eat the food you eat and you get healthier, they will watch that. And they may then ask, how are you doing? What are you doing? Maybe I should be. They'll start questioning. Some people will never get there, and you have to watch it. And it fucking hurts. It's horrible. But there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. If they believe what they are doing is in their best interest, you cannot change their mind. The only person you can control is yourself. And
quite often, people aren't necessarily thinking it is in their best interest, are they? Like you said before, there's many reasons why people are doing the choices that they are, and they've got their own journey, their own decisions to make, haven't they? And I think you're right. What I think is really sad, though, is where people have a lack of understanding rather than, if it's an informed choice, then fine. If it's an emotional choice, that's, again, their prerogative. But when people don't understand the science, that makes me upset, because I know somebody who's going through, they've got cancer and they're going through treatment. And I'm just like, please don't drink fruit juice. I know this sounds like, because she doesn't realize that fructose feeds most cancers. That's the Wahlberg effect, and Sam Apple's been on the show talking about it. And I think there's Macmillan Days selling cakes with sugar in, and I'm like, what is this about? Just look up that this stuff is really not good for you if you've got cancer. And that really upsets me, because you want to do something without being the in your face zealot type, and that's hard.
Yeah. But then you're also then butting against current wisdom, which is food could never be the problem. I know a lady that is going through a cancer journey, and their oncologist is on board with once they heard they were doing low carb, they said to them, carry on, it's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Whereas I would guess your friend's oncologist is, well, food isn't an issue here, we'll just give you the drugs and you'll be what you'll be.
In fact, in some cases, I know it's even worse than that. I've known people who've got cancer are told, because of the chemotherapy, you need to really increase your sugar and your fat intake, because you're going to lose weight from the chemotherapy. So, they just see it as a fattening thing, calorie in, calorie out, rather than being, like something that's going to be detrimental to your outcome. And that just makes me sad. But yeah, apart from that, I think you're totally right that if your loved one wants to make a change in their life, they can. If they don't, then they don't. And you've got to respect that. And you've got to expect them to respect your decisions on your life as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not a great message, that one, but it is just be the beacon and love them whatever, unconditionally.
Yeah, really powerful. Okay, well, we've done an hour already, so just want to do a little shout out to anyone. If you have any more questions you want to put to Nikola, we can take one more. If not, we can say a night tonight, and we've done very well with an hour. Just want to say, Claire's mentioned there that she's got a wedding in just over a year, so fantastic, Claire. And when you say you're kind of very much focused on the future, that wedding day, I completely get that. We've all been there. We've had a significant thing coming up. It could be a holiday for some people, could be a wedding in other cases, whatever it might be. And of course, you're going to plan for the future. Yeah. But I think if there's anything Nicola's taught me that I really tried to make in my daily life, is that empathy for yourself, and actually understanding, being compassionate, and just kind of making your choices on today, and being informed about that, and being not beating yourself up and enjoying it. And hopefully in a year's time, maintenance will become easy, because it's a lifestyle, and that'll just be good for you for the rest of your life, not just a wedding day.
This is also covered in key 8 in my system. It's called oscillating stuck structures, and it's where we have a target. And basically, we end up in the opposite of what we want. Because if we are aiming to be thin and we are currently fat, well, when we get thin, there's no reason to stay thin, so we get fat again, because that's the way the brain works. We oscillate between these two things. So it's about rising above. It's like, for me, it's health. That is just, and the body's default state is health. Yes, there are people that are born with stuff that is not great, but even within that, their body will be as healthy as it can be. Your body will always want to be as healthy as it can be. And by focusing on health and not, oh yeah, I'm getting married in a year's time and I want to look good. Well, what happens in the 2 months after your wedding? You've lost your goal, and suddenly everything goes back to the way it was. So yeah, definitely key 8 is all about dealing with those sorts of thoughts and how you can rise above it.
Yeah, love that. Just one question I think is quite important from Pam, and I think I know what it's in relation to. She's asking about mayonnaise. She said, what about mayonnaise, which I make with raw egg and olive oil? So do you remember Pam was saying before about this inflammation problem? And then you were saying how snotty eggs aren't great. But of course, if you have a raw egg, would that be potentially an inflammation problem that she's suffering from, do you think?
Well, given that normally you make mayonnaise with just your egg yolk, I mean, there are recipes where you put the white in as well, but normally it's 2 yolks, some oil, and I personally do it with butter, because I do butter mayo rather than hollandaise, so I don't make the little reduction. And of course, you can do it with bacon fat and make baconaise.
Ooh, I've got to go. I've got an idea.
And so that the egg yolk itself is perfectly fine if it's raw. The egg white on its own is perfectly fine if it's raw. It's when you combine the two together. And of course, I think Pam was also talking about her inflammation and reaction to eggs previously anyway. So, but then you've also got the olive oil in itself could be a reaction agent, where we were talking about people never used to eat it. and it's one of those. Michaela Peterson talks about. I know if I have olive oil, I get snuffly. I have a very mild histamine reaction to it. I love the taste of it. Don't get me wrong. Olive oil is amazing, but then okay, yeah, okay. And I can acknowledge that that's caused that reaction. So it could be, if you were eating a lot of that and reacting to it, that the olive oil is the problem. Try butter.
There you go. And actually, yeah, I'd always say err on the more saturated, personally. Like for instance, frying eggs in tallow, or and dripping and stuff is way better, I find, for the eggs and the experience, and olive oil. The
taste. Eggs in beef dripping taste way better than eggs in vegetable oil, for a start. Although no vegetable oil has been in this house for like 8 years. Even before anything, it was oh my god, seed oils, oh no, okay, well, we'll just not eat those anymore. But yeah, in terms of just the specific allergen stuff, as long as you keep them separate in terms of raw egg products, I believe you should be fine. Caveat that with you, everybody is different, and you have to suck it and see what's going on with you.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you to all the people who sent in those lovely questions. It's been so lovely doing this evening. Oh, what a lovely way to spend a Friday evening. And just want to say a huge thank you to you, Nikola, for doing the series with me, for putting up with all that time, chatting to me about all this stuff. I just want to say this, as a podcast host, it is the greatest privilege, because if I just said to Nikola, oh, do you want to just chat about this stuff? Then she's very generous. She probably would, for a lot of, and she'd talk to me about things. But actually, I kind of get to be firsthand and sit here and listen and learn from my amazing guests. And I've learned so much from this show. And, I was going to say, I'd love you to come back for our 2nd anniversary show in March, if you would, because you're my first ever guest on the podcast. So that spot's always for you. My birthday episode is always your slot. So
absolutely. I'm on it like a bonnet.
Hey, excellent. So you'll be back then. And for those people who are going to be listening to this as a podcast, it'll come out on Tuesday next week. So those who are listening, this is now the last episode of the podcast in that series. And then next week there'll be another series starting. So more details will come about that very soon. Right, whatever you're doing this weekend, everyone, I wish you a very happy and safe and fun weekend. Maybe out pumpkin gathering, or I don't know, running around in the leaves, whatever you get up to in autumn. And I hope you have a great time. So thank you, and bye, everyone.
Bye.